There you go. Yay, Nicole!
All right, I am super excited to be here. Thank you, Nancy and Katie, and then Marie in Jersey. It has been just a joy to be so welcomed and, as you said, pressured into doing the talk. I love it. It's fantastic. I needed that. So thank you, but all of you. All right. So without further ado, not with further ado, who am I? So I'm Nicole Wilker. I started out life as a software engineer, and then I moved forward into the .bomb and the .com, and then I was a tech BA, and then I moved into being a regular BA, and then somebody was like, "Hey, can you do this Scrum Master thing 1,000 years ago when the dinosaurs roamed?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" So I sort of fell into the whole Agile Scrum Master coaching, everything forward from there, based on just somebody asking me to do it. So similar to the gal saying you should think about doing a lightning talk, just do it. Just say yes. What's the worst that could happen? It's only recorded. It's fine. It's no big deal. So I have a wonderful husband of 15 years who supports me and is a really good sport, helps me do all the things and be all the things and do all my technical stuff. I have a little rescue puppy, Paco, who is unconditional love, but also possibly partly a cat. So he's not like the true puppy that wants the belly rubs all the time unless he wants it and he's in the mood. The other half of how I came to be is I was born in Spain. I was in Massachusetts. I followed a boy to California, hence the fried potatoes at the fair. And then I had a boy follow me here to Colorado and have been here for 15 years and just loving it. I love it here. So one other fun fact is last year, 2020, before the world ended, I did climb Kilimanjaro, which was one of the most amazing and hardest and funnest things I've ever done. So like I said before, do it. Just say yes to something. Like, give it a try. All right. So today, what I am hoping to bring to you is knowledge of there are so many things in your life that you can pull from to be the best that you can be, that you are the best that you can be. You're not realizing it. So think about other things in your past and ways that you can pull them into your toolbox. So I've given two examples. There's one that's super neat and tidy, and there's the other one that is less neat and tidy. So it doesn't matter what your toolbox looks like. It doesn't matter how it's organized. All your stuff is in there. Take a minute, find the thing you need, the most handy hammer or the best item for the job. It's going to be in there, and you just have to take a gander and put the other things in there that you might need. So just take a minute to think about what in your life makes you the best that you are. All right, so basically being who I am, and we'll get into more of that as we go through the presentation, I do my job best by knowing all the things. I had a boss tell me that my best ability, my superpower, which I'm going to ask you all next what your superpower is, so think about that as we get to that, is I can see the storm on the horizon. And so I do that by collecting all the knowledge, being able to hear what's out there, understanding what people are saying, knowing the people to know, and that way I can help everybody as best that I can. So that's how I Agile. It doesn't mean that you have to Agile that way. You Agile whatever way you want. You can chair dance, you can go through it any way that works for you. But the main thing I do like to do is you should always be on the verge of working yourself out of a job. If you're doing your Agiling right, whether it's the two-step or the merengue, you should be getting your people in whatever capacity they are to be self-sufficient and organizing and able to move along, quote unquote, without you. I've never heard anybody want to get rid of me. They're like, what do you mean you're leaving? So know that it's not often that you do that, but that should be your goal. All right, so we talked about the Agile Superpower. I can't actually see the chat because I haven't figured out how to do that with my computer. So if you want to speak up or just put it in the chat. What do you consider your Agile superpower when you're working through with your teams, either in whatever capacity you are, if you're a coach, if you're a Scrum Master, if you're a product owner, whatever. So let me have it.
Well, and we're watching the chat, so we will shout them out as they come up.
I think people should just speak up, but yeah, if you don't feel comfortable, you can throw it in chat.
But we would love to hear your voice. Yep. And here's one: relationship builder, able to see the best in a person.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Who else?
It also has its drawbacks. I think I put that in, the fact that I sometimes am blind to providing the feedback that they need to improve on, because I can only see what's good. So I still battle with that. Yeah.
That's a really good point. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Mel said facilitation. Yes, I know that one. Mel, you were spot on.
I mean, that's a tough one.
It is tough.
I keep going to Marsha Ackerman's talks when she's talking about her book, The Art of Facilitation. I'm always like, I got to get a little bit more.
I read that book and I'm like, yes, yes, and yes. And do I do it? No.
But it's in there.
It's there.
Someday. Half the battle's recognizing that you have a gap, right? So that's good.
Let me see. Kim, if you're eating dinner, then in chat, I'm Kim, the connector. Ta-da. Nice.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bobby.
It is dinner time here.
Yeah, right. Bobby, mind shifter, helping people see and consider other perspectives.
That's a good one.
I would say I'm really good at bringing order to chaos, but that could also be a downside as well, because you don't want to step in and fix everything for everybody. You want them to kind of come up with what the plan should look like. And
yeah, I would say mine maybe, I don't know if I have one. I think maybe
you don't have a favorite food. You don't have a superpower. Come on.
My superpower. I don't know. Listening. I think I'm a pretty good listener. Yeah.
Super important. Awesome. Thank you all for playing. I really appreciate it. And if you didn't come up with anything right now, just think about it. You have one. And just put that in your toolbox.
Could be being authentic, being yourself. That's a huge superpower.
Mm-hmm. Some people struggle with that. So yeah, it's a good one.
Awesome. All right. Has anyone ever tried to lead a meeting with a frown? Right. Yeah, it's not possible. So this originally came into my life. I used to teach aerobics. So you cannot dance around in a leotard with hip hop music playing with a frown. It just is not going to work. So that was when it originally went into my toolbox. But from there, I mean, there's no point in going to a meeting if you have a little frowny, cranky puss on, because you're not going to get the feedback that you need from the people in the meeting. They need to know that you're open and that you're there for them. If you're already closed off, if you've got the body language of, I don't care what you have to say, it's not going to work. So being happy and having a positive attitude really makes your day move along better. I probably joke around too much, and I am from the East Coast, so my humor is a little off sometimes. I learned that when I first moved to California. We don't speak the same language. All right. Being able to have people on your team that understand what you're saying and they understand that you are there for them is vital. You have to make the rapport. You have to talk to them and have them know that words that they say to you, that you'll listen to them, you'll understand, and then you'll take it forward. My favorite phrase that I use is, "It has come to my attention." And that can mean 1,000 different things. It could mean somebody tattled on somebody. It could be somebody gave me a confidence, or it could be I saw something in the break room. Like, nobody knows where that comes from. And I'm honest, like, this can come from anywhere. So just understand that if I say this, I'm not going to tell you who did it. I was once in a meeting where the head of the service desk was asking for some feedback. And I said, well, you know, some of the teammates, they just don't have time to read the documentation. And so that the head gentleman was asking me who said that. And I said, oh, no. And my teammate in the meeting said, oh, no, that's not how we play here. So no, we have given you the information, we've given you something to work with, but we are also keeping the confidence so that we can get more information later. Just giving away the goat or whatever is not going to help with that. Another thing I like to do, and I learned this from one of my mentors and close friends, is to remember to have one-on-ones with your teammates. This works with both the current environment we're in with remote, or even when we're back in person. Just getting the face-to-face and the time with that person. You're going to have a little bit of chit-chat at the beginning so that you understand each other, or at least have something you can talk about. I still talk to my old delivery manager from 2 jobs ago, and I just asked him how his pool was yesterday. You know, where would I get that except on a one-on-one or spending time with the people? So having people understand you and be able to believe in you is really important. Another throwback is aerobics. I mean, if you're up there in a leotard running around and you're telling people to go left and right and forward and back, I mean, they have to buy into what you're selling. So you can't just throw it at them and hope. And then a quote I have from The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey is, capable people are credible. So building that trust, the buy-in, showing that you are the person that you are really helps you move forward with your teams. All right, vulnerability. I mean, it is vital that you show that you are human. If you aren't human, if you're just a robot, how are you going to move forward? You have to hold that. Have you had that moment in the pit of your stomach when you either don't know an answer, or maybe you said the wrong thing and you're just, ooh. So I try to make sure that I own it right away. So I have an example from today. My boss canceled a meeting because he said, well, there was nothing on the agenda. It was supposed to be team built. So I yelled at him in Slack, AKA all capital letters. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, well, there's no agenda. And I said, are you looking in the right place? Because we moved from Google Docs to Confluence. And he said, yes. This is my tone, obviously, right? Because it's all typed. And so I sent him the link and he looks. And so after the meeting, I go, and I had forgotten to put labels on the template agenda from Confluence. So no, it was not showing where he was looking. We all as a team looked somewhere else so we could see it. So I just straight up to everybody on Slack, I'm like, mea culpa. I'm going to own this. I was wrong. I apologize for putting capital letters to you. And it was all fine. But it could have gone terribly wrong. You know, if we didn't have a good rapport, if I hadn't done the trust, and if I wasn't vulnerable in that moment to take onus, then you know, it's not going to work. So yeah, I also like to use vulnerability to help my teammates. So if I know that someone is uncomfortable in a situation, if they are not ready to show that they don't know something, I'll ask the stupid question all day long. I'll say, what does that acronym mean? Or what is this thing that you're talking about? And I've built the rapport generally with the people in the room that they know that they're like, you know, she knows that. And I'm like, right, but somebody else doesn't, and I'm here for them. That's fine. I don't mind being the class clown or the fool to ask the questions that need to be asked. So one of my favorite quotes from Brene Brown is rumbling with vulnerability. We need to be vulnerable and not tiptoe around the truth. So vulnerability is not weakness. So that's the other thing to remember and keep in the back of your head is showing that you don't know something doesn't mean that you're an idiot. It just means that you don't know this thing that you're asking about and that it's okay. Awesome.
Oh, Brene Brown.
I know. Another story that has nothing to do with anything, but I was in a book club with some people that like were buyers for Barnes and Noble, and I said I was reading Brene Brown, and I got like an eye roll, and I was like super sad. I was like, but there's so many good quotes. I think I have like 66 highlights in that just one book. So again, I was vulnerable, and I'm going to own it, and so I'm loving that. So being able to inspect and adapt is 100% important. I had a coach and I asked him to do a retro with me. So it was basically a one-on-one retro. He was a really good sport, but I said, when I was a Scrum Master, I didn't have a tribe. Like there were other Scrum Masters within the building, but we never interacted. So I never got to see what they did. And I never got to know like a better way of doing things. So I asked him to do a retro with me so we could build and I could get better. And it's actually his fault that I did my first presentation because that was one of the things that we talked about that I should really move forward in doing. So yay him, yay retros, yay inspect and adapt. Again, I'll stop talking about aerobics eventually, but if you've ever been at a wedding, if you've tried to do a line dance, or maybe it's just me that I don't really do line dance as well, like it's iterative. Like it's like, step to the right, step to the left, kick front, kick back, whatever. All of that is, again, see, I'm terrible at line dances at weddings. So it's an iterative process and you get better each time, or the person next to you pushes you in the right direction. And so then you figure it out and you learn. So that's the adapting to your situation and understanding how to move things forward. So without being able to look into yourself and move forward with that, you're not going to get any better. So another quote from The Atomic Habit is, becoming the best version of yourself requires you to continuously upgrade and expand your identity. So that's super important for your toolbox. If you're not looking inside yourself, if you're not building on what you do, if you're not expanding who you are in whatever direction and whatever that means to you, however you want to expand, if it's in your career, if it's in your skill set, whatever that is, think about it and do it. So making sure that everyone in the room feels like they belong there is vital. If you've ever had a well-performing team, if you're part of it or you're coaching it or you're managing it, and then you get a new teammate, it's vital that that new person feels like their opinion matters, that they can ask a question, that they are able to participate and become one with the team. You have to take the time to make sure that that environment is safe, that the team understands how to add the new person, whether that's going through your team agreements or a social contract again with the new person so that they understand either where they can add their thoughts or where they fit in with where the team was. So it's just super important. So a story from my childhood, my mom would not put up with not being inclusive. There was one time I came home from school and I said, "Ugh, Kathy Thompson is just so boring. She's a terrible person." And my mom said, "Why?" I was like, "'Cause, Jenny said so." She's like, "All right, well, you're going to invite Kathy over next week. She's going to come home on the bus with you and you're going to make your own decision versus just repeating what somebody else said." So I did it. And she truly was boring as all get out. But at that point, it was my decision. It was my knowledge that she was not really somebody I wanted to spend time with. But I wasn't just going along with the crowd. So taking the time to get to know someone, to get to know the people on your team, to understanding the skill sets, to making sure everybody has a voice is vital. This is really important during retros. If you have your quiet speaker, or on my team, there's 3 of us, we call ourselves the marinators. So if there's a question that's asked, we might not have an answer right away. So we've kind of come up with like each of us has a safe word that either we'll say we have to marinate or we'll give the safe word of like, we need to think about this before we're ready to commit to an answer and whether or not we agree or not, or if we have a different idea, a different direction to go. So it's understanding the people that are there. So the three of us that are the marinators, we understand the other two are like off the cuff, seat of your pants. They are ready to go and make a decision and own it. And you know, we have to understand each other's styles and make sure that as a team we move forward. So take a minute, think about people while you're working through either in your team, you're coaching them, you're seeing how they're working. Make sure that you take into account everybody that you have with you. This quote came from Nicole Spence-Goon during, I think it was the Bite-Size Agile conference. So I just loved it. And I'm like, ooh, that's me. That's what I do. So you've already heard some of my quotes. And I just have a ton of quotes. I'm always reading. Like I said, I have highlights out the wazoo, and I don't know when I'm going to actually have time to go back and read all the quotes. Even today, I was scrolling through to see if there was anything else, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was a great one. So there's just so much in the world to learn, to like have in your brain, and to be able to use and move forward, and just be part of the world that you're in. Another friend of mine said curiosity is one of the best characteristics that you can have, to be curious about a topic, whether that's another person on your team, if it's a new topic that you're working through that's on your backlog, or just continuously learning and trying new things. So my lifelong learning started with, we used to drive to grandma's every summer, and we would go to the library back when you did that, and we could get 2 bags of books. So, you know, remember the old school cards? So that we would check out 2 bags of books, and I would read them all the way down to Florida in the car. It was 2 days. And then my dad would bring them back, because he could only stay for part of the summer, and bring them back to the library. Even now, I love curbside pickup at the library. That's my most favorite thing right now, because I don't even have to like work that hard. They just bring me the books that I asked for, and then I give them back. It's magic. Or, you know, if I really want my quotes, then I can just do the ebook, and then the Kindle will save that information for me. So I don't have to type it or write it, whatever. All right. So some of the other things that I built into my lifelong learning and put in my toolbox was I started a book club, because there was 4 of us that really enjoyed talking about books, or would be like, look what I just read, you should read it. So I started a book club, and immediately we had to go virtual. But it was fun, and we were in alignment with the inclusivity. You didn't have to read it. You just had to want to come and talk about the topic, which I think is fair. So just definitely think about how you like to build up your toolbox, and share your learnings, or share anything in there with other people in your life. All right. As generally, unless you're on the engineering team, you're kind of siloed within the Agile realm. And so you have responsibility for something, be it the team, be it the product, be it the stories, be it the process, anything. So I determined that I learned responsibility, again, way back when. I had to take a babysitting class in town, because that would help you get on the list, because that's how you made your money when you were younger. So during that, I learned so many things. You learn the process. So how do you do CPR? It's the process. You got to do it in order, or this is not going to work. Also, changing a baby's diaper. Again, there's a specific order. And for little boys, you put the cover on first, or you're going to have to start that whole process all over again. It helps you with troubleshooting. You know, if they're crying, do they need to be burped? Are they hungry? Are they just need to be swaddled? There's just so many things that you could learn and figure out by troubleshooting. And then finally is calm under stress. I definitely learned that children and me do not make me calm. I babysat my nephew. He's now 26 and still alive, so that's good. And it was my job to feed him and put him to bed. And I failed. I had to call a friend, phone a friend. So I called mom, who at the time was across the street, and I'm like, yeah, I can't. You need to come take care of this problem. So that's another part of a lot of the other things we talked about. It also taught me vulnerability. Granted, mom was there to back me up, but it was also owning that I couldn't do it. It was not in my wheelhouse. So knowing what your skill sets are, what is actually in your toolbox that you can use right now to fix a problem or move forward or anything like that. I was definitely lucky. I was the youngest, so I didn't ever have to babysit a sibling. I went to somebody else's house and then came back. So again, all of these things are vital when you have your teams. The being able to troubleshoot what is blocking them. How do I go find who has the answer? How do I make the connection with that person to get them to be able to help the team? How do I work through the tool that we're using to keep the stories in or get the documentation, different things like that. So knowing that you are the responsible party, and it's also kind of nice, similar to the being able to see the storm on the horizon. If you're responsible, you can be able to solve that problem for them. All right. So I found out earlier this year, I watched the RBG, Ruth Gator Binsberg documentary, and I was like, my mom was my personal RBG, and that was a super amazing thing that I found out about myself. This woman, you can see we're both short, was just feisty, and she built in me independence. I was strong. She took no guff, so I took no guff because I took that trait from her. She was a registered nurse, and she always wore the cap, which I thought was ridiculous because that was from 1,000 years ago. I'm like, why are you wearing it? And I realized it garnered respect from the people in the nursing home because that was what they were used to seeing because they were of that age. So it helped her to build her. I mean, I don't think she needed it, but have the confidence to know that she wore the cap, and so then she was the person in charge, and they would listen to her and they would do what she asked. So she was always there. She stood up for what was right, and so she put that into me. If I feel that something is not going well or somebody's being taken advantage of or a process is not being followed, I just put in my heels and I hold on for dear life to know that, you have to do what's right. For me, that's for me. That might not be in your toolbox, but for me, if I made a decision or I committed to doing something, that's super important. So when I'm training teams and we're talking about committing during sprint planning, and they just look at me like, what's the big deal? And I'm like, it's in me. You have to have your integrity to stand up to your commitments and know that what you've done is what's right. And she built in me the ability to have confidence in, again, what I think is right, and also to back up what I've done the research on or what I've come to a decision on, or anything that I've taken the time to bring forward, to bring to a group. In college, I decided I was just going to go to Spain on one of those exchange trips. I didn't know anybody that was going, but she built in me the confidence and the strength to know that I would be all right. I had 2 years of Spanish. What could go wrong, right? But to know that I could make it happen and I could do it and I could just get it happen. And similar to going to meetups, I knew nobody when I first went to Agile Denver North. But then I met Marie, and then I met Nancy, and now I've met Katie. So without having taken that first step of being strong enough to own something that's uncomfortable, I would have never had the opportunities I've had. So think about that. All right. There is never a fail when you do an experiment. So I've been working with my teams a lot, making them understand that just because you decide to do something doesn't mean it's forever. It doesn't mean it's going to work. It doesn't mean that you made the right or wrong decision. So it's just giving something a go. And I've actually heard those words replicated as they're working amongst themselves, and that's really exciting, so that they have bought into the idea of experimentation and being able to understand that it's not forever and it's just something to try. So basically, I figured out that I've been learning how to run experiments forever. I consider it back when I started dating. That was an experiment to figure out, who do I want in my life? I made a lot of, I would actually call those failures, but they were incorrect assumptions and incorrect hypotheses for some of those choices. Maybe unmatched, maybe not. And then recently, while cooking, I have these most amazing brownies. So if we ever do meet in person, I will bring them. And they're made with zucchini. And these things are to die for. And they have this, I mean, it's so much sugar, like I think it just melts the zucchini. And I got one of those CSA boxes that had yellow squash. And I'm like, zucchini, yellow squash, same thing, right? No. So that was an experiment that did not work out very well. The frosting made up for most of it, but it was just, so now I know. If I have yellow squash, I turn it into something else. If I have zucchini, definitely turn those into brownies. So it's running through your life and finding different ways to figure out what works for you and what doesn't, what works for your teams, what doesn't. We've actually done this fun thing with, we're called Agile practitioners. And we have a chart where we write down either observations or experiments, and we watch them. So it's behind, lockdown and Confluence. So if we say something, maybe not 100% that somebody would not take kindly to, even though it might be a true observation, but we can each look at each other's observations. And so I can actually use somebody else's experiments and possibly run that on my own teams or my own people to see what works best for them. So that's super fun. So I am a checklist person. If you ever see, I have a little notebook that every Friday, I will go and determine what will be happening over the weekend. And some of it is chores, some of it is cooking, some whatever. But I actually also have a secondary card with what should be done every weekend, and then what week of the month and what items should be done on that checklist. So 100%, this is me. Yeah, all right, Katie's my person. So, if I'm type A on Myers-Briggs, I'm like a lawn chair. I'm the direct on the disc thing. I will own that 100%. I'm also from New England, which I learned there's quite a difference in how one communicates from New England to, say, California. So I had grown up all my life in New England, moved to California with a boy. We talked about that. I went back for a wedding, and somebody needed me to pick up food. So I run into the place, and I said, "Hey, how are you?" And they're like, "What do you want?" I'm like, "Oh, all right, I forgot I'm in New England. I would like beef and broccoli, extra rice, hard stop." And so it was just, it was hysterical to learn that, you just have to do things with process in a certain way and be organized, and 100%. So I realized how organized I was when junior in high school, we had to do a single topic project for the entire year. I chose Egypt, and I should really find the picture. I had a little table. If any of you have like nieces and nephews, like the tiny little table with the tiny little chairs. So I had that tiny little table, and it was filled with index cards. And at the time it was pre-internet. We're not going to say how old I am. But so there was bibliographies, and there was books, and there was notes, and everything was written down. and it was all organized, and I was ready to do my presentation. So I knew from then on, like, lists are who I am. If that is not you, you find your way to do whatever you need to do. You get yourself moving forward the best way that works for you, your team, your personality, everything that works for that. Okay. I am a huge fan of staying within an agenda. When one of my companies implemented we will have a standard agenda within meetings, I was like doing that little happy dance that you see for like Office Max right before school starts with the parents. They're like, oh, pencils and pens and you're off. So having an agenda, knowing what we were going to do, being able to stick to a timeline is my greatest joy, especially in the Agile world. With if you are running Scrum in, like, say 2 weeks, and that's like 12 meetings of however many hours. So they need to be successful. You need to get your people moving forward. You need to have them understand what they need to accomplish, and for them to be successful, or create another follow-up to be able to complete a task that they want to be able to complete. So my final aerobics reference right here would be an aerobics class is on a timeline. It starts on time and it ends on time. If you start late, that can kind of be okay, but if you do not end on time, that next class will come in. It will run you and all your attendees down because they are ready to get their groove on, whatever that next thing is, be it weightlifting or yoga or anything of the like. So I learned early on how to look at a clock and understand what kind of time I had. So I'm kind of freaking out because I don't have a clock right here. I keep looking at my phone to try and make sure that I'm time boxing myself appropriately to where we are within our presentation. So understanding where you need to be with your teams, being able to put a time limit on things is vital. I really like to help my teammates that like to think when we're talking about spikes or stories that are complicated, that they're unable to really expand out, to just ask them to spend an hour or two on the topic and then come back and see if we can talk about it again and maybe fix it up a little bit or do things a little differently. I am the one with the flag. So, if you ever see those groups in airports, the one with the flag, that's me. I would be in the front, ready to go, ready to take it on. I love process. I used to have a little image for being the process police with my teams. When I do go on a flight, if TSA changes their mind, I lose my ever-loving business because I'm just like, can you just pick a way? If it is full clothes, no clothes, all the shoes, no shoes, I don't care. Pick your process, pick your to-do list, and I'm in. So not having a process just really bothers me. So obviously that's a personal problem. But it cracked me up when we took, I don't remember how long ago it was, but it was a Myers-Briggs, and it came out that maternal was one of the words that described me. And we talked about me being from New England, and I might be a little bit gruff. So those that were close friends, we all just started laughing, like, no, you're not really maternal. That's not really who you are. But if you think about it, like the maternal, that the mother duck is like making sure all the ducks are together and we're all going forward in the same process and going to the same place. And so if I thought about it along those lines, it made a lot more sense than, being motherly. So I could definitely get on board with that. And then, I am all about if I need to have a certification, okay, great. Let me go take it. Let me do the steps that I'm supposed to do. Some of you will find this funny. When the SBC 5.0 came out from Scaled Agile, I had taken it. I was one of the first ones. And it was great. And I was like, okay, so my process is I'm going to take it to the first week of December. And then the following Monday, I will have all of the paperwork I need to be able to study and to take the exam. And then I will be done by the time everyone comes back from Christmas vacation. Well, it was brand new. They were not ready. So I did not get any of the information till the first week in January. So my whole process, my whole life was in shambles because I had not been able to accomplish X, Y, and Z in a row, ready to take the test. Full disclosure, I did fail it. And then I went and climbed Kilimanjaro, and then I asked to be able to retake it because I certainly had not cheated when I was in Africa because I had no internet. So that was just hysterical. So you have to have fun in life. Obviously, I'm just meandering through my life and all my stories and trying to give you touches into how to make your Agile the best Agile and make it your Agile. So I'll do weird stuff with my teams. I'll make them tell me their favorite, or like these icebreakers. Like I'll put it as the first column in a retro. Like, what was the best meal that you had in the last month? And that is actually, I stole that from Adam Weisberg. He did a presentation last year on everybody's happier when they talk about food. Obviously, we all just talked about food for like 20 minutes and we're all tickled pink. I'm still talking about it. So way back in the day, when I would teach aerobics or yoga, I would throw in like, I found the Coca-Cola jingle from Christmas and I use that like to teach a step class. So you just have to make things enjoyable. You have to use it to engage your teammates. Recently, my team, we played Among Us, and maybe 3 people actually understand how to play games. I am not one of them. And so we were talking about it later and somebody's like, I don't like games. I'm like, I don't either. That's not the point. The point is to have fun, to show your vulnerability, to make nice with your coworkers so that you have something to share and camaraderie that you can talk about later. It's a way to just build all the things that we've been talking about for this past 40 minutes of, trust, buy-in, vulnerability, time boxing, because you only have 30 minutes to play the game, different things. And if anybody has not taken or seen the Agile Denver North when we all played games, I think it was, that was super fun and I was terrible at it, but it was fun and we all had a good time together. So basically, I want you all to be Agile and I want you to be your type of Agile, and whatever that is, whatever's in your toolbox, whatever things you can pull out. These were the things that came to mind that were of mine and what I filled my toolbox with. So learn from your mistakes, inspect and adapt, see what you can do differently or better and move forward and just find a way to be the best that you can be. So thank you all so very much for listening to my stories and laughing along. At least Nancy was laughing with me. Hopefully somebody else was too. And I am happy to answer any questions, or if anybody has any of their own stories that they want to give of their best Agile qualities, I would love to hear them.
I wanted to say related to that, storytelling is a big thing. And you're great at storytelling, and having that play in to whatever it is that you're attempting to illustrate for your team, right? So you can bring your own stories back to the team and say, here's an example of responsibility, or, whatever it is. Yeah. I guess we can close her up then. A little bit of an early night, and thanks everybody for coming and hanging out with us, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. And we'll see everybody soon.